crimson glow of the Zidon Council chamber pulsed with a malevolent light, reflecting off the obsidian surfaces and casting long, dancing shadows across the assembly. Fear, cold and pervasive, clung to the air, thicker than the recycled atmosphere. Above, the holographic projection of Xyler the human flickered, its features distorted by the Council's interference fields. His form, spectral and defiant, was a constant reminder of their failure, a specter haunting the very foundation of their dominion. The accusation, etched in the minds of every Zidon present, echoed. Heresy, defiance of the first law, and the ultimate crime, exposure of their most guarded secret to an unproven species. The sentence, already decreed by the ruling triumvirate, hung in the air. Death on Xylos, a planet synonymous with the abyss of suffering, a world that devoured all life, leaving only the echoes of screams. Councillor Vorath, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming with nervous sweat, shifted in his seat. The rasping sound was magnified in the oppressive silence. He directed a venomous stare at Councillor Lyra, whose 6 eyes, normally cold and calculating, now betrayed a flicker of something close to despair. The evidence is irrefutable. The human Xyler has broken the sacred pact, shared forbidden knowledge, and endangered the very existence of our empire. Vorath's voice, a low growl, resonated with the collective unease. The humans, the ancients, as they were now so cautiously referred to, were an enigma wrapped in an unknown quantity, a variable they could not process within their established parameters. Lyra's mandibles twitched. She attempted composure. "We acted in good faith, Vorath. We offered understanding, a chance for assimilation. We underestimated." She hesitated, searching for the correct phrasing, a vocabulary that did not betray her deep-seated fear, their peculiar nature. The ancients, in their brief interactions, had displayed an unsettling combination of apparent naivety and unexpected resilience, a moral code that defied their expectations. Their technology, while rudimentary compared to the Zidon Empire, posed an unsettling potential. The holographic image of Xyler seemed to shimmer in defiance, his calm face a mask of inscrutability. The very image was proof of humanity's resilience. He had survived the brutal tests, the mental probes, the attempts at coercion. He had endured, and in his endurance he had become a threat. The first law, the cornerstone of their civilization, dictated absolute secrecy. The galaxy must not know of their vulnerability, their reliance on a power source they could not fully control. The humans, however, had gleaned enough information to pose a risk of their entire project. Across the chamber, Councillor Zarthus, a towering figure whose carapace was scarred with the marks of ancient battles, slammed his fist onto the council table. The impact resonated through the room. "Enough of this equivocation. The human has betrayed us. He must be eliminated. The threat must be extinguished. Any compromise will lead to the Empire's doom." His voice cracked with the unyielding conviction of a predator sensing weakness. The elders looked on, the weight of 1,000 years pressing on their decision. The Empire's existence, their control over the galaxy, was at stake. The silence that followed was broken only by the hum of the energy containment fields. Every Zidon in the chamber knew the horrors of Xylos, a planet that was a testament to the raw indifference of the universe, a graveyard of lost civilizations, a world where the very air was poison. To send Xyler there, it was a sentence of unimaginable torment and certain death. Yet the alternative was unthinkable. The possibility that the humans, with their uncanny ability to adapt and understand, might somehow unravel their secrets. It was a choice between 2 fears, each equally devastating. "The sentence is approved," declared the Grand Arbiter, whose authority was absolute. The Arbiter's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Xyler is to be transported to Xylos as per the established protocol. The execution will be swift and, let us hope, final." His words fell like a death knell. The holographic image of Xyler blinked out. The council chamber dissolved into a maelstrom of whispered fears and anxious reassurances. The Zidon, masters of interstellar travel, wielders of unimaginable power, felt a chill that transcended the physical. They had condemned a being to death, but they knew, with a certainty that gnawed at their core, that they had also condemned themselves. The transport vessel, a sleek black needle piercing the cold expanse of space, hurtled towards Xylos. Inside the stasis chamber, Xyler remained perfectly still, his body suspended in a state of suspended animation. The journey was designed to be as efficient as possible to hasten the moment of death. He was a dangerous variable, a problem they sought to be rid of. His mind, however, remained active, trapped within a prison of thought. He understood the Zidon, their fear, their desperation. He had seen their power, their arrogance, and their fundamental weakness. He recalled his first contact with the Zidon. The initial awe, the scientific curiosity, the careful probing. He had gone as an ambassador, a representative of his kind, seeking understanding, offering collaboration. But the Zidon, consumed by their own secrets, had seen only a threat. They had underestimated the strength of humanity, their innate capacity for empathy, their relentless pursuit of knowledge, and their unwavering belief in something beyond the darkness. He had learned their history, the source of their power, and their reliance on a force they did not fully understand. It was this knowledge that had sealed his fate. He had seen too much. Xyler remembered the countless hours he had spent inside their interrogation chambers, the brutal examinations of his mind, the attempts to break his spirit. He had been subjected to mental torture, the Zidon probing his mind, extracting every memory, every thought, every secret. But he had not broken. He had clung to his conviction, to the fundamental principles of his species, hope, truth, and the inherent value of every life. He understood that these values, so alien to the Zidon, were the key to their downfall. The ship decelerated its approach towards Xylos. The planet loomed into view, a swirling vortex of crimson and black, a landscape sculpted by unimaginable forces. The air itself seemed to crackle with malevolence. He knew what awaited him, death. But even in the face of oblivion, Xyler felt no fear. He knew that his death was not an end but a beginning. He was a harbinger, a messenger. The Zidon had underestimated humanity, but he had underestimated them. They would not win. The stasis field deactivated. Xyler's eyes opened, his gaze unyielding. He felt the familiar pang of cold, the slow, labored breaths of the atmosphere inside the transport. The ship initiated its descent, heading straight into the heart of Xylos. The engines roared, fighting against the planet's gravitational pull. The final countdown began. The surface of Xylos was a desolate wasteland, a sea of jagged rock and swirling, toxic dust. The air, thick with the scent of decay and the whisper of forgotten screams, clawed at his lungs. The transport ship crashed onto the rocky terrain, its hull groaning and tearing apart. The release mechanism engaged, the hatch hissing open, expelling Xyler into the unforgiving environment. He stepped out of the wreckage, his gaze scanning the landscape. He moved with a measured pace, ignoring the effects of the toxic air. He had expected to die quickly, a swift end to the trial. Instead, Xyler felt a rush of adrenaline as he saw the world. He knew what to look for, the signs that betrayed the seemingly barren land. The Zidon had not been meticulous in their surveillance. Xyler, utilizing the knowledge he had, began to search. He needed an opportunity. He knew that the Zidon, in their arrogance, believed Xylos to be an unbreachable prison. Their assessment was flawed. They had overlooked a crucial detail, a vulnerability that would give him the edge he required. Days turned into weeks, each marked by the struggle for survival. Xyler explored the planet, gathering resources, studying the geological formations, mapping the subterranean systems. He was not a warrior, he was a scientist, an explorer, a man of logic and reason. But on Xylos, those qualities were just as valuable as brute strength. He utilized everything he had, his intellect, his resolve, his unwavering belief in the principles he had been raised on. He was preparing. His search led him to a network of ancient tunnels. He deduced their significance, a remnant of a long-lost civilization, one that had mastered energy manipulation on a scale that dwarfed the Zidons. The tunnels were his answer. He followed them, navigating the labyrinthine passages, utilizing his technological skills to repair and reactivate the dormant mechanisms. With time and effort, the planet would give way to his plan. He would not just survive, he would return. Back in the Zidon Council chamber, the atmosphere remained strained, heavy with the weight of uncertainty. Reports from Xylos were sporadic, their sensors showing only fluctuations in atmospheric conditions and the expected signs of the planet's deadly environment. Vorath, restless and plagued by unease, again brought the matter before the council. "We have received no definitive confirmation of Xyler's demise," he stated, his voice tight. "The planet's conditions make it difficult for sensors. Still, it troubles me." Lyra, her 6 eyes narrowed, turned to the Grand Arbiter. "The Arbiter perhaps could provide some assurances. Is the threat, as we believe, truly extinguished?" The Grand Arbiter, his face impassive, offered a reply. "Our surveillance is comprehensive. The probability of survival on Xylos is infinitesimally small. Our calculations show the human's demise is a near certainty." Xarthus, unconvinced, spoke with a low growl. "Calculations are not certainty. The humans, as we have learned to our cost, are unpredictable. We cannot afford to be complacent. I propose we deploy a reconnaissance vessel, confirm Xyler's death with absolute certainty, and retrieve any of his remaining effects." The proposal was met with silence. The risks were significant. The potential rewards, however, were even greater. The counselors were forced to consider their decision. They had done what they could to destroy their threat, but they had not been entirely successful. The debate raged on, the tension in the chamber amplifying with each passing cycle. The Zidon were a species that prioritized logic, yet fear had eroded their judgment. They had failed to consider the full extent of the human threat, the depth of their resolve, the power of their resilience. They had underestimated their enemy. Finally, after hours of deliberation, the council reached a consensus. A scouting vessel was approved to assess the situation on Xylos. It was a calculated risk, a gamble, but it was a risk they had to take. The future of their empire hung in the balance. The reconnaissance vessel, a small, sleek craft, pierced through the crimson veil of Xylos' atmosphere. Its mission, to find what remained of Xylar. The captain, a veteran Zidon named Rala, approached the planet with a cautious mindset. He ran a series of sensor sweeps looking for any sign of life. The readings were puzzling: intermittent energy signatures, localized disturbances in the atmosphere, and the unmistakable trace of human technology. "What is the meaning of this?" Rala barked, his voice laced with confusion. The vessel's sensor operator, a young Zidon named Kazar, worked feverishly at his station. "Readings are inconsistent, Captain," he reported. "Several anomalies, energy fluctuations within the ancient tunnel network, a spike in atmospheric activity in a localized area." The information was presented to Rala. The findings were not what they had expected. Rala consulted with his tactical officer, a cold, calculating strategist named Zant. "We need to investigate. We must find the source of these anomalies." Zant, his exoskeleton glinting, nodded in agreement. The vessel altered its course, heading towards the area where the readings were strongest. As they approached, the anomalies intensified. Their scanners registered a complex energy field, unlike anything the Zidon had ever encountered. The ship shuddered, its systems fluctuating, its shields straining. The vessel emerged over the mouth of the tunnel network. As they peered into the gloom, Rala stared in disbelief. The ancient tunnels, once dormant, were now ablaze with energy. A complex network of lights pulsed with a vibrant, unnatural power. From within, the unmistakable signal of Xylar's life force pulsed, stronger than anything they had ever encountered. The Zidon were shocked. Xylar was alive. "Prepare for immediate combat," Rala commanded, his voice tight with alarm, but it was too late. Before they could prepare, a beam of concentrated energy shot from the tunnels, striking the vessel head-on. The ship buckled, its shields collapsing under the attack. The vessel, crippled and under attack, began its descent into the planet's deadly environment. Zant cursed. The vessel crashed near the surface. The surviving Zidon, disoriented and wounded, began to evacuate the ship. They expected death, a swift end to their pursuit, but they had underestimated Xylar. From within the tunnels, Xylar emerged, his form now clad in a protective suit, his eyes gleaming with purpose. His face was a mask of determination, yet with an unexpected, almost unnerving calm. His suit had a weapon, a focused beam of energy that could neutralize any Zidon weapon with ease. He approached the wreckage, his steps deliberate and measured. He had prepared for this moment, for the Zidon's inevitable return. His intention was not to destroy, but to reveal. He wanted the Zidon to understand. He wanted to show them what humanity was capable of. As the Zidon survivors emerged from the wreckage, they were surprised to find the human alive. Xylar stood before them, his presence radiating an aura of calm, unwavering strength. He spoke to them, his words echoing across the desolate landscape. He spoke in their language, the Zidon language. He had studied their tongue, their customs, their history. The Zidon had underestimated his desire to learn and understand. "I am Xylar," he announced, his voice clear and precise. "You have attempted to kill me. You have sentenced me to death. Yet here I stand. I have survived. I have returned." He paused, allowing his words to sink in. "You fear us, the humans. You see us as a threat. But I am here to tell you you are mistaken." The Zidon, their weapons aimed, their exoskeletons shimmering, stood frozen, their disbelief clear. They had seen him fall. They had seen his execution. And yet he stood before them. His appearance alone was enough to make them rethink their understanding of humanity. Xylar continued, "You are afraid of our potential, of our ability to understand your secrets, but your fear blinds you. It prevents you from seeing the truth, that we are not your enemies, we are your future." He gestured towards the tunnel entrance. "I have uncovered the secrets of this planet, of its ancient history. I have learned your weakness." He spoke calmly. He then presented the weapon, a device of advanced design, a weapon capable of neutralizing any Zidon weapon in a single blast. He held it in his hand, offering it to the Zidon. You are advanced in your ways. I have learned many things about your technologies. You are good at destruction but lacking in creation. I have prepared for your coming. I could have killed you all. I could have ended your empire, leaving it in ruin. But that is not my way. It is not the human way. The Zidon stared at him, their faces a mixture of confusion, shock, and mounting fear. He continued, "We humans are not driven by fear but by hope. We are driven by the pursuit of knowledge, the desire for understanding, and the belief in the infinite potential of life. We believe in life and its possibilities." Zyler's words were met with silence. The Zidon, used to threats and ultimatums, were stunned by his calmness, by the clarity of his message. For the first time, they began to question everything they thought they knew. "The choice is yours," Zyler continued. "You can continue down the path of fear, of secrecy, of destruction, or you can choose a different path, a path of understanding, a path of collaboration, a path that leads to the stars." Zyler deactivated the weapon. He waited. He knew the decision rested with them. He had offered a choice, a final choice. Back in the Zidon Council chamber, the news of the reconnaissance vessel's destruction had ignited a maelstrom of panic and recrimination. The whispers of fear had turned to shouts of rage. The council was divided. Some demanded swift and decisive action. Some, those who still held a flicker of reason, called for diplomacy. Vorath, consumed by fear, sought to bring back the old orders. Lyra, her 6 eyes clouded with conflict, listened intently. The Grand Arbiter, his face still impassive, called for order. "We have received a communication. It is from Zyler." A hush fell over the chamber. The human who had escaped the certain death had sent a message. The council was shocked. On the main holoscreen, Zyler's image appeared, his expression unchanged, his eyes unwavering. He spoke to the assembled council, his voice carrying through the chambers. "I have returned. I am alive and I am speaking to you now. I have seen the planet of Xylos, a place of death, as you intended, but I have also seen the truth. You seek to control the galaxy," he continued. "You believe that strength lies in fear, in secrecy, in the relentless pursuit of power. But you are wrong. True strength comes from the embrace of diversity, from the sharing of knowledge, and from the unwavering belief in the inherent value of every life." His message was a stark challenge to the foundation of their civilization, to the very essence of their empire. He went on to describe the ancient civilization of Xylos, of their advanced technology, and of their tragic demise. He revealed the source of their power, a complex energy source that threatened to consume everything it touched. He spoke of the danger they faced and of the need for collaboration. "You fear us, the humans. You fear what you do not understand. But I am here to tell you that there is nothing to fear. We are not your enemies. We are your allies." His voice resonated through the chamber. "The choice is yours. Will you remain locked in your cycle of fear and destruction, or will you embrace the possibility of something more, of a future filled with wonder?" His words, a plea for unity, echoed through the chamber. The Zidon, the masters of the galaxy, the architects of conquest, were forced to confront their own limitations, their own fear. They had sentenced a man to death. But he had returned not with a weapon of war, but with a message of hope. The Grand Arbiter paused. He turned to the other counselors. The decision was not his alone. The future of the Empire rested on the shoulders of the council. He met the eyes of each counselor, his gaze unwavering. In the aftermath of Zyler's message, the council chamber was once again a battleground, a clash of ideology, a desperate struggle for the very soul of the Empire. The discussions were intense, emotional, and at times almost violent. Vorath, driven by fear, demanded immediate action. The humans must be eradicated, their knowledge suppressed, their potential threat eliminated. Lyra, however, argued for a different approach. She had been shaken by Zyler's message. She saw the truth of his words. The Zidon Empire had lost its way. It was trapped in a cycle of fear and paranoia. It was on the path of self-destruction. "We have faced the human threat, and we have failed," she declared, her voice trembling with emotion. "Zyler has revealed the truth about our weaknesses. We cannot ignore his message. We must adapt, or we will perish." Zarthus, still wary of the humans, remained neutral. He was a pragmatist. He wanted to understand the full implications of their actions before making any definitive decision. He had seen the power of humanity. He was not sure of their intentions. He knew only that it was a force that could not be ignored. After long cycles of debate, the council voted. The vote was close, but in the end, Lyra's words resonated with the majority. The Empire would open diplomatic channels with the humans. They would listen. They would seek understanding. they would attempt collaboration. The decision was unprecedented. The Zidon, the most powerful species in the galaxy, were humbled. They had underestimated humanity. They had misjudged their potential. But by doing so, they had also learned something about themselves. The future of their empire and the future of the galaxy hung in the balance. A diplomatic envoy was dispatched to make contact with Xyler and open lines of communication. The vessel, a vessel designed for peace, carrying their flag, moved through space. The meeting took place on a neutral world, a planet of verdant beauty. The Zidon envoy, led by Counselor Lyra, disembarked from the diplomatic vessel. They approached the designated meeting place, a clearing in a lush forest where Xyler awaited them. The humans were an enigma. They were a species of incredible capabilities, of incredible complexity. The Zidon still did not entirely understand them, but they had learned something about humanity. Their civilization was founded on very different principles. Xyler greeted them with a calm smile. He offered a gesture of peace and respect. The meeting began, the dialogue began, the future of the galaxy was at stake. "We have come to understand," Lyra stated. "We have come to understand that we have been mistaken. We are willing to collaborate, to share knowledge, to build a future together." Xyler listened intently, his expression unchanged. "The path of collaboration is the right path," he replied. "The universe is vast, and there are countless threats that we must face together." He then revealed the Zidon's vulnerability. He showed them the source of their power, a technology that was both magnificent and incredibly dangerous. He demonstrated that the humans had mastered it, creating a new, stable, and more sustainable energy source. The counselors were astonished. It was one thing to hear the words, another to see. He then presented a far more significant revelation. "We have observed your primary power source and your reliance on the energy for an age. We have found it to be unreliable. The source is prone to failure and is the source of many of your challenges. We have sought to understand this and have done so." The counselors listened intently. Xyler continued, "We have sought this source for our own purpose, and we have found that the power is a key to something larger, something more profound." He paused, allowing his words to sink in. "It is a key to something that the galaxy has long forgotten." He spoke of a cosmic threat, a force that had wiped out entire civilizations, a threat that was now awakening. Xyler directed the counselor's attention to the deep space sensors, displaying a vast, intricate map of the galaxy. On the edge of the galaxy, the image of an abandoned megastructure appeared, the remnants of a civilization that had been consumed by the cosmic threat. Its size was immense, far greater than anything they had ever conceived of. "This is what awaits us," Xyler announced, his voice carrying the weight of the universe. "It is a threat that will consume everything if left unchecked." He then explained the nature of the threat. It was an interdimensional entity, an entity that feeds on energy, that destroys all life in its path. Its influence was vast, its power immeasurable. "We have been watching this threat for generations," Xyler continued. "It has been dormant for a time, but it is now awakening. It is preparing to consume the galaxy." The Zidon counselors were in a state of shock. They had been consumed by their own fears, consumed by their own secrets, that they had blinded themselves to the true threat. The humans had seen it all. They had understood it all. They knew the danger. Xyler continued to provide them with the information, details on the threat. He had created the information, the understanding. It had been his purpose for decades. He did not seek to rule. He sought to create a universe. "We, the humans, have been preparing for this threat for centuries," he explained. "We have learned from the mistakes of the past, the mistakes of the civilizations that fell before us. We have built defenses. We have built weapons. We have built alliances." He turned to Lyra. "We must work together," he stated. "We must unite if we are to survive. We must shed our fears, our suspicions, and our prejudices." The Grand Arbiter turned to the other counselors. "I believe that our collaboration with the humans is no longer an option, but an absolute necessity." The Zidon Council, still recovering from the revelations, considered the human offer. They had sentenced Xyler to death, but now he was offering them salvation. Their civilization was at the precipice. The choice was clear. The alliance was formed. The alliance between the Zidon and the humans was announced to the galaxy. It was a turning point. It was an embrace of understanding, a step towards a new future. Together, they would fight the cosmic threat. The Zidon, with their technological prowess, and the humans, with their ingenuity and unwavering resolve. The combined fleets of the Zidon and the humans set forth to the edge of the galaxy to confront the cosmic threat. They moved with purpose, an alliance born from adversity. They were a beacon of hope in the face of despair. They were the last defense. The battle began, a clash of unimaginable power. The combined forces faced the cosmic entity. The Zidon with their advanced weaponry and the humans with their innovative tactics fought in concert. The fight was a struggle. They suffered losses. They faced setbacks, but they did not surrender. Xyler, leading the charge from the front lines, fought side by side with the Zidon. He had risked everything to protect them, to guide them, to create a future. He inspired the humans. He inspired the Zidon. The battle raged on for cycles. The forces of the cosmic entity pushed back. They unleashed their fury, but they were met with unyielding resistance. The cosmic entity was powerful, yet the alliance was resilient. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they found the entity's weakness. Xyler, utilizing all of his accumulated knowledge, had devised a strategy that targeted the entity's core, its connection to the interdimensional plane. He launched a final, devastating attack. The entity recoiled, the energy erupted, the fight was over, the cosmic threat was neutralized, the galaxy was saved. In the aftermath of the battle, the galaxy was forever changed. The alliance between the Zidon and the humans had proved victorious. Together, they had overcome the greatest threat the universe had ever known. The Zidon, humbled by their experience, embarked on a new era. They shed their secrecy. They shared their knowledge. They embraced the diversity of the galaxy. They embraced the humans' ethical principles and logical approaches. Xyler, hailed as a hero, returned to Xylos. The planet was transformed. With the technology of the combined forces, they terraformed the surface, healing the wounds of the past. The Deathworld became a place of life. The ending was not simple. The cosmic entity had been banished. But the discovery of a signal, a message sent from beyond the galaxy, hinted at a new frontier, a larger universe. The message was from a civilization, asking for help, telling of a new threat. The humans and the Zidon were ready. They were no longer afraid. They were united and they were hopeful. They understood the future. They knew what it meant to face the unknown and embrace it. They set their sights on the new horizon. Their journey continued. They stepped forward. In the depths of the Zidon Council chamber, as the celebrations raged, Lyra watched Xyler. He was looking out at the stars, a vision of the future. She understood that he was contemplating the vastness of the universe. He was a symbol of hope. She thought of the journey that they had undertaken together. She reflected on the fear that had gripped the Zidon Empire. She also thought of the understanding that they had gained. "The universe is vast," she said, her voice soft. "There is so much more to discover, to learn, and to explore." Xyler turned to her. He smiled. "Indeed," he replied, "the journey has just begun." He gazed out into the dark beyond, a light that shone with the potential for infinite possibilities. The silence was broken by the faintest of transmissions. The humans, the Zidon, were on the cusp of something extraordinary. They were no longer afraid. They had faced their fears and they had won. The future was theirs. The camera pulled back, showing the chamber with a glimpse of the stars. The music swelled, a symphony of hope, of wonder, of the unlimited potential of humanity. The end.